Today, we're jumping into a fascinating story from the world of aviation. It's a case where a part so small you could hide it in your hand caused a massive multi-million-dollar headache for one of the most sophisticated private jets in the sky.
I mean, how is that even possible, right? You've got this pinnacle of engineering, this incredible piece of technology, and it gets sidelined by a couple of loose screws? It sounds crazy, but it's exactly what went down. And this story, well, it pulls back the curtain on a world of unbelievable precision and an absolute non-negotiable obsession with safety. All right, let's get into it.
So, where does our story start? Well, it kicks off with an official warning, a type of document that whenever it's issued sends a jolt through the entire aviation industry.
Here it is, the official start of the paper trail. You've got Transport Canada, they're the aviation authority up there, issuing this specific directive for the Bombardier Global 7500. Now, you have to understand, a notice like this, it's not a suggestion, it's not a friendly reminder, it's a legally binding order, it's a command. So what exactly is an Airworthiness Directive, or an AD as they call it? The easiest way to think about it is like a car recall, but on a whole other level. An AD only gets issued when a safety agency spots what they call an unsafe condition, something that if you don't fix it, could put the aircraft in serious danger. It's not optional, it's mandatory.
All right, so we've got the official alert. Now for the fun part. Let's put on our detective hats and figure out what exactly was the problem here.
And the problem was traced right here. I know, it's an absolute mouthful. Slat 2 Cove Rib 6 bracket. But what's so wild is just how specific that is. We're not talking about some general problem with the wing. We are literally talking about a few particular fasteners on one single bracket buried deep inside the wing.
So you're probably wondering, how on earth does a mistake like this even happen? Well, it turns out it was during a pretty simple step in the assembly process. This bracket had to be taken off for a minute so a wiring harness could be routed through. Then it was supposed to be put back on. But here's the kicker. That final critical step, the verification check, was sometimes getting missed. Nobody was doing that last double check to make sure the fasteners were in and tightened down correctly. Just a tiny oversight in a hugely complex process.
And listen, this wasn't just some what-if scenario they found on a computer. Nope. When inspectors actually got their hands on these planes, they found some pretty concerning stuff. We're talking brackets with fasteners just gone, completely missing. Others were there, but they weren't tightened down properly. And this was popping up on both the left and the right wings. Okay, so a few missing screws, a couple that aren't tight enough. How does that simple flaw blow up into a serious risk for a whole fleet of jets? How does one loose bracket become such a threat? Well, for starters, this wasn't just one or two planes. The directive called out a block of 85 specific aircraft, by serial number, that rolled off the line with this potential flaw. That's a huge chunk of the fleet that now needs a very close look.
And to really get why this is such a big deal, you have to understand a core idea in aircraft design: structural redundancy. It's basically the philosophy of having a backup for your backup and then a backup for that. Planes are built so that if one part fails, other parts can pick up the slack. It's a safety net woven right into the structure.
And that gets right to the heart of it. A wing is designed so all its parts work together to carry the immense stress of flight. That teamwork creates a massive safety margin. But with that one bracket not doing its job, the load doesn't get spread out the way it's supposed to. All of a sudden, that crucial safety margin starts to shrink, and the whole wing is weaker than it was designed to be.
So let's just cut to the chase. The reason this directive was issued is because the ultimate danger, the worst-case scenario, is catastrophic. An improperly secured bracket could, under just the right G-forces and stress, lead to the structural failure of the wing itself.
Okay, so the danger is real, it's on the table. Now what? What's the plan to make this right? The fix is just as precise as the investigation was. Every single one of those 85 jets has to go through this exact procedure. Mechanics have to go in, physically inspect the brackets on both wings, check the torque on every single fastener that's there, put in new ones where they're missing, and then make sure everything is tightened down to the exact engineering spec. No guesswork.
Now, the one bit of good news for the jet owners is that this wasn't a ground the whole fleet right now kind of emergency. The regulators looked at the risk and decided it was manageable, giving everyone a 48-month window, that's 4 years, to get the fix done. It allows them to schedule the work during other routine maintenance and not disrupt their operations too much.
But don't get it twisted. That 4-year window is not a suggestion. It is a ticking clock. And the aviation regulations are absolutely black and white about it.
Once that deadline hits, any plane on that list that hasn't been fixed and signed off is grounded. It cannot take off. End of story.
So let's just zoom out for a second. It's so easy to look at this and just see a mistake on a factory floor. But that's not the real story here. The real story is about a system that actually works.
See, the whole point of an airworthiness directive isn't to point fingers or assign blame. The point is to make sure that once a mistake is found, it gets corrected on every single aircraft and, just as important, to make sure it can never ever happen again.
You're seeing the safety feedback loop in action. The information from these inspections gets reported back to the manufacturer and the regulators. They analyze all that data, they pinpoint that weak spot in their process, that missed verification check, and then they change the process permanently so that mistake can't be repeated.
So the next time you're on a plane and you look out the window at the wing, remember this story. What you're really looking at is the result of 100 years of learning, all held together by an invisible global system of checks and balances designed to catch even the tiniest problem. It kind of makes you wonder, what other invisible systems are at work keeping us safe every single time we fly? Thanks for joining us.